The answer is yes. In this video, I will share the risk of staying in one job for too long. Risk number 1, the longer you stay, the weaker is your chance of getting a promotion. Many of us believe that we should be promoted because we've delivered results. We worked hard and we're committed to our organization. We're even very loyal to our employer. We made life sacrifices for our job. Plus, our manager identified us as the key talent within the organization. Many of us also believe that our manager, our HR, and our company should be responsible for our career development. They should help us get the next position, ideally a higher one with broader scope and a larger team. This could be the best way to stay stuck in the middle management, and I myself have learned the lesson the hard way. For 8 years, I was stuck at a director position with one of the Fortune 500 companies. And this is the first lesson that I learned. Simply have performed in the current job for 4 to 5 years does not necessarily mean you should be at the top of the list for a job promotion. On the contrary, the longer you stay in the same job, the weaker your management team perceive you. This also reduces your leverage and decrease your chance of getting a promotion. Now you might be asking, so what about loyalty? There are 2 levels of loyalty here, and I want to differentiate for you. One is being loyal to your organization, the mission you are assigned to, the people, your team. And the second is being loyal to your own professional and personal goals. Yes, your future self. As much as I have loved working with the 2 organizations that have developed me in the last 12 years, at the end of the day, the relationship between employer and employee is still transactional. That is, I provided a service and the company gave me a job, a compensation package, and yes, they've also invested in my development over the years. The day I left, this transactional relationship also stopped. And here's the thing. Your company is not your family, and your colleagues, they are not your family members. Some of the organizations I worked for come with great culture, and we were promoting this family-like atmosphere. And sometimes I did feel that way as well, especially for one of the organizations where I stayed for over 10 years' time. Many of my colleagues and I have seen each other's growth. We celebrate each other's promotions. We went through demanding projects where we give up all weekends, our holidays, and we travel together for weeks and months. And many of us even witnessed each other's life milestones, like we went to each other's weddings, and we all at some point of time become parents for the first time. This is the personal relationship between you and your colleagues. It does not represent your organization. And truth to be told, on that relationship as well, after I left the company, I've lost touch with the majority of my colleagues in less than 6 months' time, even though we had very nice shared memories together. So yes, you do want to value your loyalty to your organization, your mission, and your team, but also don't forget to be loyal to your own future self, your own career goals. If you have performed and completed your mission within the time frame of your organization's strategy, typically it's between 3 to 5 years. If nothing happens after 5 years, despite you've delivered, you performed, you do want to start working towards your next position, whether it is inside of your organization or externally. Because if there's no progression within 5 years' time, it is quite unlikely that something very exciting, like an executive job promotion, will ever come your way with the same employer. The longer you stay in the same job, the weaker your management team will perceive you. This really reduces your leverage and reduces your chance of getting promoted. Now here comes the second risk. If you have been working for your company in the same position for more than 4 years without any discussion or indication of a promotion, you are very likely to become irrelevant and you are no longer very interesting to your management team. In other words, you become part of the furniture. The reality of becoming too comfortable at a company is that they no longer see your ideas as important. Your leadership team assume you will always be there, just like the tables, the chairs, and the meeting rooms. You become part of the landscape. Let me share a quote from BBC about staying with one employer for too long. For some employers, there is a point at which staying in one place can start to reflect poorly on a worker. 8, 9, 10 years, that's fantastic. But 15, 17, 19 years, that's a big difference there. When you stay with one employer and one job for too long, you lose your ability to compete against the newly joined colleagues, because we all know that our managers pay more attention to the newer employees. When a new team member is hired, they get this honeymoon period. During this period, their opinions are highly valued and they get a lot of attention from the team. So if you remain in the same position, the same place for too long, you have lost your shine and you've exhausted all your potential for growth. Therefore, even you are the highest performer and you have consistently delivered excellent results, Still, your manager may no longer consider you for advancement opportunities. You become less relevant because you are overshadowed by the new hires, their values and their opinions, their ideas. When I started my second vice president job in a new organization where all my peers in the management team have been there for years, and I was getting a lot of attention and visibility in our meetings, the president was particularly interested in what I have to say. I remembered one of the peers in the team came over after the meeting and said this to me: "Enjoying this for 6 months. After this honeymoon period, you will be like us." I know this may be difficult to accept. This may be wrong in so many ways, even if your company has the world-class talent retention strategy. But it is true. It is a reality. The newly hired team members, they get more interest from the executive team and from the colleagues. And this is because your company is facing ongoing problems and new challenges that they need to address. It is not personal. In fact, it has little, if anything, to do with you personally. However, your executive team, they need to solve their problem and relieve the pain they're experiencing. So naturally, they put more hopes in newly hired leaders who bring fresh ideas and different perspectives as outsiders. So if you have been staying at the same position for too long, your leadership team may start to believe that they have seen all you have to offer. Your ideas at this point are all exhausted, and you are more irrelevant with each year passing by. And this is not because you are actually irrelevant to your organization. It is simply because the newly hired leaders, they get more attention and recognition. This might sound very frustrating. Very likely, these newly hired leaders are sharing the same ideas that you have been telling your organization, your management team. But now, this point of time, their voice is heard. And why is that? Because it's about perception and the perceived needs rather than the content of what you are saying. And this, of course, has financial consequences as well. Here comes risk number 3, is you are leaving money on the table. The worst kept secret is that employees are making less on average every year. Here's the numbers. In Europe, salary increases are expected to drop to closer to 4.5% in 2024. And US organizations are planning an average increase of 4% in 2024. According to BNP Paribas, inflation in the United States is expected to rise to 3.4% and 2.9% in Euro area. That means your salary increase is actually about 1%. And there's very little you can do to change the management team's decision or the government decision. But you can decide whether you want to stay at a company that is going to give you a pay raise of 1%. Among the members of my coaching program, the average raise a leader joining a new organization is between 25% to 50% increase in their salary. Obviously, there are also some members get a higher raise. This depends on each person's circumstances, their industries, and their countries. So why are employees who jump ship actually got rewarded and loyal employees are punished for their dedication? The answer is pretty simple. Recessions allows business to freeze their payroll and decrease salary. These reactions to the recessions are pretty understandable, but the problem is that these reactions were meant to be temporary. Instead, they have become the norm in the marketplace. More importantly, we become more used to hearing about a 3% pay raise, and we accepted it as the new norm. Here's a quote from a recruiter. I would often see resumes that only had a few years at each company. I find that people who had switched companies usually commanded a higher salary. The problem with staying at a company forever is you start with a base salary, and usually annual raises are based on a percentage of your current salary. There's often a limit to how high your manager can bump you up since it's based on a percentage of your current salary. This is not about you being able to advocate for yourself and have the courage to ask for above average salary increase. I'll give you an example here. During my second vice president position, I was hired from outside to an organization that has a very sustainable growth, high profitability, and with a great culture. Many of my colleagues have never worked in any other company, and some of them even have family members like their sisters, husbands, or even their parents working in the same organization till they retire. All of them are highly loyal. When I joined and during the salary review, I clearly saw that my team was underpaid. Even they have been working there for a decade, their salary growth over the last 10 to 15 years have been growing just with the inflation. Then when I wanted to raise one of the high performance salary above average, it was incredibly difficult to get anything above 5% because I do have a quota from human resources. So if I give this person a larger raise, it means the others in the team will get less. and I cannot exceed that percentage. Finally, I didn't make a case for this team member to get an extra raise for her, but it took many months to get approved. And still, even with that internal increase without a job promotion, it does not match anyone I was hiring from outside. Because for the same job level, when I hire from outside, I can easily get an extra 20 to 30,000 euro hiring budget approved. That means the external hire who joined us and had the same job position as the highest performer in my team is already earning 20,000 to 30,000 more from the moment she started with us. But for the internal cases, it was incredibly difficult to get that level of increase. So if you move to another organization, you start fresh and you can usually ask for a higher base salary to hire you. Companies competing for talents are not afraid to pay more when they hire, if it means they can hire the best leader. The same thing applies for job titles. Some companies have a limit on how many promotions they allow each year. So if you are trying to get promoted inside of your organization, it may be more difficult because you are waiting in the line behind all the others who should have been promoted a year ago, but they were not because of that limitation. But if you're interviewing for a higher position in a new organization, your skills may match the higher title, and that company will hire you with the new title. I have seen cases from my former colleagues and members in my coaching program. They were waiting on a certain title, and finally, they get it the day they left the organization they were working for, and they were hired at a new company. Risk number 4 is you are being perceived as lack of career progression. So if you have been in your current position as a director for more than 5 years, you might still find it engaging. You still find there are new things to learn every day, but your resume will not show the breadth of new experiences that a person accumulates by changing jobs every few years. And recruiters often also see this as a lack of career advancement and ambition. And the potential employers might question if you can adapt. Staying too long does not only hurt you with your current employer, it also makes the new employers shy away. Here's another quote from BBC. If you have only been in one industry, in one business, it can make you a little bit one-dimensional from a hiring manager's perspective. I'd question how diverse is their learning and development style. Are they willing to take risk or are they risk adverse? Are they dynamic enough? You might look at that and go, how motivated is this person? Why haven't they wanted to move? Of course, some staying power and loyalty is attractive to an employer. They don't want to invest in a new employee only to have them leave in a year or two. But staying too long, many employers see the risk and they wonder if the person can adapt, and they wonder also how much drive and motivation this person has. It could also suggest that you haven't been able to get new roles with greater responsibility. Hiring managers want candidates who can demonstrate they are motivated, they are driven, and they have hunger for learning and continuous development. When there's a clear lack of career progression on your resume, this can tell the opposite qualities, because this leads recruiters to question whether you have been on purpose chosen career stagnation, or if your performance was not strong enough to facilitate your next career advancement. Risk number 5 is if you stay in a company for too long, it might limit your learning potential. When you've been in an organization for 10 or 20 years, especially when you've been in the same function all this while, then at some point, you might realize that you are not really learning anything new anymore. When I stayed for over 10 years in one organization, even I was changing positions and I got promoted every 2 to 4 years. But later on, when I changed the company, the learning curve was not even comparable. Because even though I've changed the positions with the same organization, the overall environment was the same, the culture was the same, the way of working and the overall management style were very similar, even they are in different divisions within the same organization. So within about 6 months to maximum of 1 year, I have already felt that I could fall asleep on my job and still perform very well. Yes, I did have missions and projects that need me to put 3 years of effort to be able to see the results, but that does not mean that my learning curve continued to grow at the same speed as if I had joined a new organization. The same goes to overall industrial knowledge. For example, I've seen colleagues who have worked for multiple brands in the construction and transportation industry. When they join us, they truly have the authority and leadership voice to comment on the transportation industry. Different from myself and many of my colleagues who have only stayed with one brand for a very long time, we cannot say that we have the understanding of the overall transportation industry compared to them. However, these newly joined colleagues who have worked not just for Volvo but also for Daimler Trucks and Scania, they bring valuable insights. And these insights they share are not just from reading strategies from other companies' websites or from outside. They actually have experienced working for the other competitions. By working inside of these competitors, they actually learned how these brands failed, how they succeeded, how they develop products, how they sell, how they navigate cost challenges, supply chain issues, and how they overcome the profitability turnaround. So how long is too long? If your goal is to continuously grow your career and climb the career ladder, 5 years in the same position is already too long for you to remain competitive for most careers. This may not fit for all these occupations in the world, but it will be the case for many. Depends on the job. I would recommend a window of 2 to 4 years as suitable time. 2 years is on the low end and 4 years is on the high end to learn, contribute, and master what you need to do to advance to the next level. That of course depends on the job, the level you are at, and the organization you work for. And let's not forget about the circumstance. So if you are working at a place where you hate, you feel stressed, you feel like you're going to burn out, you either adjust or you need to move on. And if you're serious about making a change this year to advance your career, increase your impact and income to the senior executive level, you want to submit your application to the 1% Academy program, you can start by book a free strategy call. During the call, you will either meet myself or one of my team members, and we will discuss your current career status, your goal, and evaluate if you're a good fit for the program. For now, let me leave you with this video: 3 steps to get senior executive positions without a network.